Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Excellent. And welcome to those who are watching online. So, really delighted to be here, and thanks to intelliflo for the opportunity to speak today. I'm Helen Clark. I'm the owner and founder of Mint Blue Consulting, which I set up in December 2017. I'm a project manager and consultant, and I run operational and change management projects for businesses, primarily in the financial services space, where I've been working coming up 35 years, I worked out, so it's a long time. So today, I'm going to talk about goal setting in a hybrid world. Obviously, we've got some learning outcomes, so we're going to touch on processes, look at communication channels, how you utilise your technology, and most importantly, how you're planning to reach your goals and what it means in a hybrid world. So let's just take a step back and look at the timeline. Fairly average, high-level timeline, but it just shows what we've been through over the last 3 years. Starting off in 2019, we were already starting to move to a hybrid world. Several businesses, and many had already been looking at how they could better utilise their office space. There was still a need to be actually in the office, and trying to use conferencing facilities was interesting. You might get the odd one or two people on the other end of the line. Now we step forward to the beginning of 2020, and there was rumours going on that obviously the virus was spreading, and we might be in a lockdown situation. And actually I was helping intelliflo actually move to their new offices in the latter stages, and we actually sat down and said, which date are you thinking about? This was in January, 13th of March. And as the weeks went on, we had to stick to that date. It was that tight. So we literally got everybody moved in, which was great. But then everybody had to work from home from March 2020. And business continuity plans didn't allow for that. They allowed if you were going to work from another office. And there was a fight for technology, laptops, office equipment to take home. And that was the basic situation throughout 2020. And then during 2021, we saw a little bit of an increase as people came back into the office. But it was 1-2 days a week. Those people that really couldn't work from home, it was better for them to be in the office or in. But it was very quiet. I was up in the city a few times in that time. And actually, I was the only person meeting a new colleague. And I said, you won't have any trouble finding me. And then it dipped back down at the end of last year, which was only natural. It was flu season and everything going on. But this year is coming through, and it's different. Businesses are finding the best way to actually work. The average, 2 to 3 days per week. There's a lot of recontract working or guidelines being putting in, and everything's different. You've got a number of businesses that have turned around and said, we just don't need our premises anymore. Everybody can work from home. We'll just come in once a month and catch up. And particularly in the city, there were quite a few companies who said, we're not going to move to our larger premises at all. We're going to stay put and actually downsize. But the actual idea of hybrid working has changed. It's not the same as it was in 2019. If you're poorly, you're not on the tube anymore. You don't hear people coughing and spluttering. If you need to work from home, you've got things that you need to be handling, it's accepted. You've now got Zoom and Teams where you can actually dial in and actually get on with the job. It's a very different hybrid to how it was 3 years ago. I'm just breaking that down a little bit further. So technology, desktops, laptops, absolutely, they were in use in 2019. We all went on to laptops, as we know, in 2020. But there's still a hybrid. Some people prefer to work on desktops. There's a need in some of the offices. In fact, some of the larger insurance companies couldn't actually get everybody working from home. They just didn't physically have the technology to do that, so they had people working. Business travel, how many businesses have turned around and said, actually, we don't need people travelling in the same way as they were before. You can work from home. If you absolutely need to go and see somebody in person, great. So you've got hybrid. And the same with meetings. They were face-to-face, the dial-in went totally online. We've proved it can work. So again, hybrid. Networking has been really interesting. So I'm talking about networking groups out there, and they were traditionally face-to-face. Then all of a sudden, they had to quick adjustment in 2020 to go online. And actually, it's been a boom time for the networking groups out there, because you could actually go to anywhere in the country online and meet people within that networking group. What a way to communicate. And everybody got used to presenting online. Actually, the move back to face-to-face has not happened as these groups expected. People are not really wanting to travel in the same way. So there's a bit of a hybrid situation there as well. The same with locations, as we talked. Some offices have got rid of their premises altogether. Others are downsizing, and people are only in there 2-3 days a week. And clients, as we heard earlier, that traditionally was face-to-face, that had to go online, and now we're looking to hybrid. It's up to the client. And some clients are very comfortable. Yep, I'll just talk to you on Zoom. So the hybrid approach is great, it's flexible, it's brought flexibility in a way that many of us have been wanting for some years, but it's actually complicated the communication channels. So in 2020, we knew where everybody was. It was absolutely at home. So it's a reset opportunity. It's an opportunity to look at your business and say, are we still doing things in the right way? Because we can't go back to what there was, we've got to move forward. So you're looking at ownership and responsibility. SM and CR came in. You've got nominated roles within your business, but do they still stand, or has the responsibilities changed? How are you communicating across the hybrid environment? Are you using Slack channels? Are you using an intranet? One of my clients has just literally built an intranet, a financial advisor firm. Have you looked at your processes? We'll look at this a little bit further on. Have you actually thought about where you can automate your processes to make life easy? Where you've got different people coming into the business, where are your processes actually located? What about training? Graduates and school leavers, bless them, have had a really tough time coming in to the workplace. It's not the same as it was for me when I joined, building those relationships. So has the training actually worked? What do you need to do differently as you're working in a hybrid environment coming forward? And the increased use of technology. It's very easy to take technology on, get it to a point where you're comfortable in using it, but not evolve it further. So again, it's a reset opportunity. Are you getting the best out of your technology in terms of workflows, client portals, everything else that's available to you to make your lives easier? So I've been rereading Tim Peake's autobiography. I'm actually going to hear him speak in September this year. And it's a really interesting book if you've not picked it up, Limitless. He never actually intended to be an astronaut. He always wanted to just go and fly planes and helicopters. But he was talking about his Sandhurst training, the first 5 weeks that everybody goes through in the army. And I was reading it thinking, what does he mean by routine army tasks? It sounds really hard work. But actually, that gives the baseline for what everybody needs to do, the same standard. And it's what we do in our businesses. You've got your processes there, but you need everybody trained up. So that process training is ongoing for everybody that's joining your business and as it changes. It's a fundamental baseline. And it's really important because you're going to have your goals and projects that you want to achieve on top of that. And projects fluctuate, they go up and down. And as they actually complete, they're going to go into your business, and that business as usual line is actually going to be steadily increasing. So the processes that you started off 2 years down the line, 3 years down the line, may well have changed. That constant review through. So what does that mean in terms of your business goals? Does that change it in a hybrid environment? I think one of the interesting items going back to 2020 was the fact that everybody was working from home. It's like having a captive audience for management. And CEOs, by their nature, are entrepreneurs. And all of a sudden, it was an opportunity to say, what haven't we delivered in the last few years that we could really get everybody to do? So it wasn't really so much about the goals, it was about how that was being achieved. Because your goals are always going to be around technology, strategic, operational, products and services. There's no getting away from that. So the ideas are there. So it's a journey you're going to be taking. So you know what the what is. That usually links in with the where and the when. And I know when I talk to my clients, they all say we know what we want to achieve. What we don't know is how. And that links in with the who. So one really simple example of this, my financial advisor happens to be an intelliflo user, very patient man. Anyway, he came and spoke to me a couple of years ago before the pandemic, and he said, Helen, I'm looking for a compliance or a T&C person to come into my business on a freelance basis. Once a month, they've got to be local. So, okay, got a couple of contacts, so I put him in touch. Wasn't quite the right match. Very good people, just wasn't the right match. So he went along, made some adjustments. 2 years later, same conversation, really desperate, want a T&C person. So I know just the person, but they're 2 hours away. You're going to have to deal with them online. And without missing a beat, he actually said, yep, that's absolutely fine, put me in touch. And do you know what? He's highly delighted. So the goal was the same, but the solution was different. What had been unacceptable 3 years ago is now acceptable. So it's a bit like booking a holiday. Where you've got everybody in the same room, the same household, booking a holiday is really easy. You can go and have a quick conversation. You can work out who's actually booking the holiday. Might be the same person that books that holiday all the way through. But as soon as you start talking across a group that is not in the same household, you've got to think about how you're communicating. You're going through WhatsApp. You're going through emails. You're getting together as a group. It's really important, that communication method. And that preparation comes through as well. So I've just come back from Lisbon. Very nice. But that was booked 3 or 4 months ago, and I went away for a week. So you start off with the requirements, that communication piece. You're then booking your travel, accommodation, then there'll be a break. Then you might get asked, we've got to pay the difference. That always helps. Then you start thinking about, what do I need to do? What's the climate? What's the clothing? Particularly after 3 years of not going abroad, it's a bit of a struggle again. But that actual slither of holiday, the implementation, 1 or 2 weeks, maybe a weekend. So all that preparation has come through. And again, that's what my clients, as I said, come to me and say, right, we know what we want to achieve, but we don't know how. And a goal without a plan is just a wish. It won't happen. So it does take time, but the preparation is really key. And actually, having a plan takes away from the hybrid environment in which we're in. Now, one of the politicians was saying a couple of weeks ago, how often did we have coffee conversations or bump into somebody in the office? That's gone. You turn up in the office now and you think, oh, drat, I thought so-and-so was going to be here today. They're not. So you've got to physically set up a meeting. You've got to check the calendars. You've got to set up that conversation. It's not so instantaneous as it used to be. So it's really important. So having that plan there and something that everybody can visibly see, or that timeline, or where your roadmap is for your business that everybody can actually buy into, regardless of where they are, can really help your business and where you want to be leading to. And it's not just having that high-level plan. Across a hybrid environment, you need to think about breaking it into phases. So again, coming back to Tim Peake's book, he talks about the fact he was going on a 25-kilometre hike. It was overnight, he had a backpack, it was hard work. He just wanted to sleep. So it was about how he kept going, and he broke it down into stages. He thought about the next 5 kilometres he was walking. He looked at the nearest hill. He had a goal in mind that he could actually achieve to break it down, make it easier before he hit the main goal. And I know what he means. I come from the Chilterns. It's very hilly. So you're walking uphill, looking at the next lamppost, got to keep going. And it just makes the whole journey easier. So when you're looking at projects and planning, you're actually looking at how you're breaking down the project into phases. Because at the start of the project, you're going to be dealing with requirements that usually involve management. And everybody may be very dispersed. You're trying to get everybody's views across. But as you go through the different phases, you may be dealing with different people. Tasks are being delegated. So it might involve going into the office. But it's understanding your audience and where they're actually based and how the communication channels best work for you. No one business is the same. There are similarities, but there's no one business. So for you, it's about having the team roles very clear, the communication plan as well. And management becomes really important because you've got to have people that can manage across both hybrid, the office and home environments to make sure that communication is coming through. So it's a new skill set. We're all in new territory. We're not at the end of this journey yet. I know there was a legal firm recently that was talking about everybody working from home or in the office and how they're going to structure it through salary and talking about even a salary cut. So there's still a lot of models to come through, but probably that 2 to 3 days will stick. So to finish off, it's around how you streamline and automate your processes. So the more you streamline and automate, the easier it is for everybody to come in and actually operate those. Your baseline, coming back to what we said about Tim Peake and the Army training. How you review and update your communication channels. There's lots of different ways you can do that, whether it's through intranet, Slack, something else, getting together in person. What works best for you? And make sure you get the best out of your technology, particularly now with all the changes that have gone on. Really important. Most importantly, plan. The more you plan, the better the outcome. Thank you very much. Any questions? Silence. No questions online. Any thoughts? It's got a few minutes left. No? Yes?
With the planning and the outcomes that you've highlighted, what's the I promise I won't sing. What's the other side of things in terms of getting people into the office? There's a human element there on having staff in and around the office as well, and having that interaction, and not just kind of streamlining the business for the sake of streamlining it and automating things that can be automated for the sake of it. But there's the human side of things as well.
Absolutely, and it's not, and automating the processes at the base level, because if you've got your automated processes there, so the things that you do day to day, that can free up the time to talk about your goals and the projects, the more interesting items that you actually want to get through, whether it's human interaction or online. And this is the complex side of it. We're in a situation where people are coming into the office and then some are dialing in. So, and it can change. You can turn up and find you've got 3 people in the office as opposed to the 6 that you were expecting. So absolutely. And face-to-face, certainly as a project manager, running workshops has become a different art form, because I used to have everybody all together and you could really bounce off. So now you're having to get it much more prepped and handle it online a lot of the time, because people are going, I'm not coming in. So yeah, it's that automation level to make it more interesting when you do have that human interaction.
Just to follow up, have you seen a difference in the size of companies, i.e. smaller companies are more inclined to get people in the office versus larger companies that are more inclined to allow a hybrid model, for example, or vice versa?
It's a mix. I would say the more IT-based companies are happy for online. Certainly one of my more recent clients, they were getting everybody back in the office. They said they did. You still have people coming in for 4 days a week and then 1 day at home. And they'd gone back to the more traditional model where certainly those who were being trained had to be in the office. But other companies have said, do you know what, we'll just meet up once a month. The bigger companies, yeah, they have got that flexibility. But it's an HR nightmare, because some people have actually moved further afield, not expecting to ever having to come back in the office. So HR are having quite a challenge at the moment to make sure they've got the right balance to take everybody's circumstances into control, into account. Okay. Anything else? No? Okay, thank you very much for your time. I'm going to pass over to Natalie.